Today we honor you. We thank you.
President Trump praises new agents during an FBI graduation, just days after saying the Bureau's old director left the agency in tatters and promises to make it great again. But some say it may be too little, too late. Plus, Paul Ryan denies reports he plans to retire next year. But if that's the case, then why did 36 of his friends and acquaintances tell Politico the Speaker of the House's days are numbered? And the GOP's tax reform gets a last-minute change, but will it be enough to change the minds of those still on the fence? All that and more coming up next, right here on America Talks Live. Happy Friday to you, and welcome to this edition of America Talks Live. I'm your host, Miranda. Congressional child tax credit after Senator Marco Rubio threatened to vote no on that yesterday if it wasn't added. CNBC now says Rubio will vote for that bill, citing unnamed sources. Meanwhile, Vice President Mike Pence delays his trip to the Middle East and Germany in case he needs to cast a tie-breaking vote. Pence was supposed to leave Saturday to go to Egypt, but he now plans to leave Tuesday. And Attorney General Jeff Sessions will hold a press conference in about a half hour or so. He'll be speaking about efforts to reduce violent crime, and we're going to monitor that situation and bring it to you live. Earlier this week, Sessions held a conference in Baltimore, Maryland, where he discussed the Trump administration's efforts to combat the violent gang MS-13 and to carry out its immigration policies. But right now, let's take a look at today's top story.
You are the guardians who keep us safe, who ward off danger, and who confront evil so that the good will always prevail. You represent the best of America, and you leave us with a debt we can never hope to repay.
President Trump praises new FBI graduates during their ceremony today. In Quantico, Virginia, he thanked the FBI and other law enforcement agencies for their service. Trump avoided criticizing the agency during that speech, but he did make this remark to reporters right before he left for Virginia.
When you look at what's gone on with the FBI and with the Justice Department, people are very, very angry.
Meanwhile, most Americans, 54% in fact, say they believe Special Counsel Robert Mueller has a conflict of interest because of his relationship with former FBI Director James Comey. That's according to a Harvard-Harris survey. 34% say they have a favorable view of Mueller, while 31% say they view him unfavorably. This, of course, comes after Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein defended the Russia probe and Special Counsel Robert Mueller during his testimony on Capitol Hill earlier this week. Rosenstein fielded some pretty heated questions from Republicans who were angry to find out that an FBI agent was removed from Mueller's team for sending anti-Trump text messages. Despite Rosenstein's assurances that the Mueller team is not politically biased, top cable news anchor Bill O'Reilly tells Newsmax TV there is no doubt in his mind that the FBI's investigation has been compromised.
When you have 4, that means you pack the investigation up, because no matter what you say, it's tainted. So you cannot put out an investigation now that says anything, because you've got so much chaos within the process.
And that's where we want to welcome in our first guest. Joining us today, we have former federal prosecutor Larry Klayman. He's also the founder of Freedom Watch. As always, we appreciate your time. Good to see you, Larry.
You too, Miranda. How you doing?
Doing well. Rosenstein argued in front of the House Judiciary Committee that there is a difference between party affiliation and political bias based on what you know. Would you say Mueller's team is or was politically motivated?
It is politically motivated. And if you believe that, you believe in the tooth fairy, Miranda. The reality is in Washington, D.C., it's highly politicized. The judges, many of whom are involved in this matter. In fact, I have a lawsuit against the Justice Department to force them to investigate the leaks, the illegal leaks that Mueller has been emanating from his grand juries, the conflicts of interest. The judge that sits on that has given a lot of money to the Obama and Clinton campaigns, and I'm seeking to disqualify her. But the reality is that yes, it is politicized, but when you go over the line, like this Agent Strzok has done with his mistress, and say that we're going to take the president down in effect, we want an insurance policy in case Trump's elected, you're into a realm that's wholly different than even just politicization. It's absolute corruption. It's a misuse of our system. And the fact that Rosenstein would come forward, now he's a Democrat. He was the U.S. Attorney for the District of Maryland under Obama. He participated in the investigation of Fusion GPS and Uranium One. He helped deep six those investigations when his master was Obama and Clinton at the State Department. For him to say that Mueller is a man of integrity and he has no problem with what's going on and that politicization is not affecting this investigation, he himself should be removed because he's the wrong person for that job.
Well, let's talk about Rosenstein for a little bit. A headline on the Washington Post argues that it's Rosenstein who's behaved unethically, not Mueller. Did Rosenstein, who appointed Mueller as a special counsel and argued in favor of Comey's firing, did he do anything wrong, in your opinion?
That's typical for the Washington Post. They want Mueller to be left there because they perceive that Mueller is out to destroy the president and at least have him impeached, if not indicted. But Rosenstein, they're screaming now because he helped release the emails between this special agent Strzok and his mistress. And that was perfectly appropriate. These were personal emails done on FBI computers, FBI equipment, and it was perfectly proper to release them. The American people deserve transparency, and that's the only reason that the Washington Post is screaming. Otherwise, they love Rod Rosenstein.
Well, while some are arguing for Mueller's departure or at least a special counsel to be appointed to investigate his investigation, Tom Fitton, a man you know, the president of Judicial Watch, thinks the real solution is this.
Forget about the FBI investigation into Clinton and Trump being compromised by these conflicts. I think the FBI has been compromised. Forget about shutting down Mr. Mueller. Do we need to shut down the FBI because it was turned into a KGB-type operation by the Obama administration?
So you heard that, shut down the FBI. Do you think, Larry, that the FBI needs to be scrapped altogether? And what, more importantly, is the likelihood that that would ever actually happen?
That was rhetorical by Mr. Fitton. I know Mr. Fitton, having started Judicial Watch, and he was my assistant when I was at Judicial Watch. He's not a lawyer. He's never worked with the FBI. I have worked with the FBI as a prosecutor and in actual lawsuits over the years. Most of the line agents are very honest, good people. The top is corrupt. You obviously don't want to shut the FBI down. That would leave us defenseless. But we do need to clean out the people at the top. It sounds real good to pound your chest and say, shut the FBI down. We can't do that. We have to clean it up. And that's why we need the Attorney General to play a role. That's why I brought my lawsuit, and I hope people go to freedomwatchusa.org to sign the petition to remove Mueller. And I've also a petition to have me appointed special counsel, because if I was special counsel, you're darn sure I'd clean this thing up.
Well, as I mentioned, we aired some of the president's comments today during that FBI graduation. He was very complimentary, saying numerous times how wonderful the Bureau is. And then at the same time, as you heard right before he left, he talked about some of the problems. Now, there's been some confusion. Some people think that the president's actually referring to when James Comey was a director. So let me ask you, do you think that's what the president is referring to? And do you trust that Christopher Wray is the person that it will take to turn this Bureau around?
Let me answer it backwards. Christopher Wray is not the person to turn the Bureau around. We saw him testify. He doesn't have the gravitas. He's like a kid, Miranda, and he's trying to do what he needs to do to be friendly with the rest of the powers to be in the FBI, but he's not a strong individual. And consequently, the real movement here has to be from the president himself. He's got a clean house, and he was right to go to the FBI Academy today because, yes, I mean, it's a noble thing to be an FBI agent. That's what I'm talking about, not shutting the FBI down, but cleaning it up at the top. and there's a lot of corruption, and that's what I'm seeking to do with some lawsuits that we're filing. I have problems with the FBI and the Bundy prosecution in Nevada, where I'm spending most of my time these days. They've hid evidence from the court. They've compromised that prosecution. Hopefully it'll be dismissed in a few days. But the reality is that the FBI is integral to what we do, and you can't shut it down.
Let me ask you something. You say Christopher Wray is not the man to turn this bureau around, but isn't it the president who actually appointed him to be in charge of that bureau?
Well, I think the president got bad advice. The president has very good instincts. The president's a fighter. The president wants to clean house and clean out all of the, I would say, just the dead wood in this government. But someone convinced him to put Wray in there, and that was a mistake. They need somebody who's really independent. I would have hoped that Rudy Giuliani would have been appointed. I think Rudy would have cleaned it out. And I might add, I'm available if he wants to appoint me. I would clean it out. And it is a rat's nest currently. There's no doubt about it at the top.
How would you clean it out, Larry?
Well, I would fire all the senior officials and hire new ones. And I would hire people who are not steeped in the Washington establishment. I would get people from outside of Washington to run it. I mean, for instance, I have a law school classmate by the name of Craig Gillen, who, is neutral. He's neither Democrat nor Republican. He was a former deputy independent counsel during Irangate. Somebody like Craig Gillen, if he came in there, ironically also from Atlanta, like Christopher Wray, could do the job. Somebody who does not hold his future to being appointed to a higher post in Washington, D.C. And that's what you get in Washington. These people come in and they're not satisfied with the job they have. They want a job after that. And to do that, you can't ruffle the feathers of either political party because they will block you in the nomination process. You need somebody who's fearless, somebody who believes in our democracy and in our republic. You need people like our founding fathers who risked their lives, pledged their fortunes and sacred honor to form a new nation. We don't have anybody like that today, with one exception, the President of the United States. He may be a little bit coarse from time to time. He may be somewhat rude. But you know what? In his heart, I really love the guy, and I really think he's going to clean it out. I believe that he has the right instincts. And in terms of cleaning it out, he needs to defend himself. He needs other lawyers. The lawyers that he has are Washington, D.C. establishment types. They have clients with interests that impact dealing with the FBI, dealing with the national security agencies, and dealing with other parts of government. They're not taking a strong stand for him. They should be filing lawsuits against Mueller for violating the president's constitutional rights, but they sit here and take punches. The whole system, Miranda, has broken down. There is no law enforcement at the upper level. The president needs to take control because he has much better instincts. He's a fighter than even his own lawyers are.
Larry Klayman, always good to have you. Have a wonderful weekend. Still to come here on America Talks Live. Our political panel joins us. We're going to talk about House Speaker Paul